Hi guys, welcome to this video. In this how-to video I will be covering a selection of tools and accessories that will transform your build from just an average day's work to something really exceptional. A lot of these tools will make little things that you didn't know could be easier a lot easier and simplify the whole building process of a mini quad to something a lot more enjoyable. Some of these things are quite common, but some of them are lesser known, and in my experience as a electronic engineering student, it has taken me way too long to find some of these tools which have completely changed the building process for me. So let's get started. Right in the middle is a pair of pliers. I'm actually not even sure what it's called, but this has been my most recent discovery and I cannot believe that I did not know about this earlier. It's basically just a pair of pliers with a really sharp tip, and it works great for holding wires that you want to solder in difficult places. This pair of pliers works kind of the same, but except it's curved, so you can get into even more difficult to reach places, but it doesn't have as sharp a tip as this one, which is really useful. Something else that's very important is a good set of side cutters. Now these are a bit worn out and not very sharp anymore, so I need to replace them, but a good set of side cutters will go a very long way. Next, some sharp crafting knives. Now these are very useful for cutting off heat shrink on your ESCs and several other things. Most people will have these though. Over here, you can never have enough insulation tape. That is one thing I've noticed. Insulation tape and cable ties. That is the two things that you can never have enough of. You will go through cable ties like a crazy person, and masking tape you can use for practically everything. In any case, Loctite. This is very useful. You just put a little bit on a screw if you want it to keep in place, especially motor screws and screws in frames. Make sure that you get the blue one and not the red one. So this is actually blue on the inside. The red one is really strong, and you'll probably strip your screws. Speaking of which, one of the other most important things, which has also taken me way too long to get, is a good set of Allen keys. Now these are not particularly exceptional Allen keys. I have a different set of craft Allen keys which I don't have here, but I would definitely invest in a good set of Allen keys. Also prop spanner, or something to undo your props easier than the normal spanner that you get with motors. This is also very useful. A soldering iron. This is a portable soldering iron, Dremel, which is very useful. Not particularly a very good soldering iron because you cannot control the heat very specifically. However, for in-field repairs it's very useful. It works with normal universal gas lighter refill, and it doubles up as a miniature blowtorch to shrink your heat shrink, which is awesome. That's another thing you need and can never have enough of, is different sizes of heat shrink. And a solder sucker is also can come in quite handy when you want to get rid of too much solder. Next, glue gun. This is particularly useful in antenna mounting and to keep wires in place that tend to disconnect themselves during flight, such as camera connectors or VTX connectors or things as such. I put this on the base of a TBS Triumph antenna just to keep, that's where it's very vulnerable and it keeps it from snapping off in a crash. Good multimeter is one of your best tools, most specifically because it allows you to check for short circuits before you power up. We all have that moment on a new build where you plug in the battery and you just close your eyes and hope for the best and cross your fingers that there will be no magic smoke. So I always use a multimeter to check for continuity. In case you don't know what continuity is, each multimeter will have something like that, a little diode or something like that, and when you connect the two probes to one another, it will either beep or it will go to 0. If it goes to 0, then it means that there is continuity. In other words, it's a short circuit. And if it doesn't go to 0, it means that there's no continuity. Or if it beeps, it means there's a short circuit. So I always check on my positive and negative terminals on a flight controller or a PDB to make sure that there's no continuity, in other words a short circuit, to avoid magic smoke when you power up for the first time. This is called snakeskin. It may be called something else in different countries, but this can be used to make your build quite neat. You have a bunch of wires that you want to package nicely, you slip them into here, and when it pulls, it thins out. It's not that easy to work with because the end frays like that, but when you do get it to work nicely, it looks very neat. This is some of the lesser known magic appliances. It's called liquid electrical tape. So it's essentially the liquid version of this. It can be used to you can put a few layers onto your PDB or ESCs just on the connections, and when it hardens up, it will act as an insulator. So if, for example, this PDB were to get water on it, it would not short circuit between positive and negative. And so that can be useful if you just want to add an extra layer of protection on your build in case you're flying in damp areas or after the rain. Helping hands. So it took me a while to get a pair, and I was very glad that I did. Connecting or soldering things like XT60 connectors is just made a whole lot easier to hold little wires up if you want to tin them or something as such. People don't realize how useful a headlamp can be if you want to light something up or look into a dark corner of your build, especially if you want to read small writing on something like the back of your FPV camera. A bag of different standoffs. Now this is very useful and it's very cheap, and people don't often realize when you'll need standoffs in various shapes and sizes. So get a bag like this, you won't be sorry. Proper knife, because who does not like a proper knife? Dual lock. Now if you don't know what dual lock is, it's like the big brother of Velcro. It is awesome. Usually put this on the battery and on the quad. The great thing about this is it doesn't have a male or female side, it's just clicks onto itself, and that keeps your battery from moving around, and then you just put a battery strap over it. So really great also for mounting camera mounts, etc. The last things that I want to mention, which I do not have here, is a good soldering iron. As mentioned before, the portable soldering iron works well for in-field repairs, but a good soldering iron such as a Magnum or something else is very important. It has to be temperature controlled, otherwise you'll burn your pads, you can mess up flight controllers and ESCs, and that is a necessity, probably the first thing that you need to buy. A wire stripper is also very useful. I don't have one here. You can use a craft knife to strip wires, but a wire stripper specifically is very helpful if you have thin wires that you can easily break with something like this. And lastly, something called Instamorph. Now Instamorph is a bag of plastic pellets which you can mold into any shape that you want. You just soak it in warm water for a while, and then it's basically like the glue from a glue gun when it hardens, but for a while you can mold it into anything and it becomes really hard, and you can use that to mount stuff or protect stuff. You'll find it on the internet if you just Google Instamorph. Thank you very much for watching this how-to video. I hope that it does help you in your building process, and if I did miss anything useful that you found, please mention it in the comments and it may help someone else. Now go enjoy your builds, because that is half of the FPV hobby. Epic flying.